Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Prospero.Ai stock market live streams. We were off last week, but we are back now. So it's going to be good to see everyone in here. Comment if you missed our streams last week. We have a lot of catching up to do since we were gone. Some events happened while we were off stream. So we'll catch up on what's going on in the market. I do have something to ask of the chat before I get rolling into the topics for the day. I have a job for you, chat, today. So I'm going to be on the stream, so I can't be watching. So in one tab, you need to keep the Croatia Italy game open and update me if the score changes for the soccer game that's starting right now. We're rooting for Croatia as a Prospero community. But yes, keep that open and let me know if anything changes with that score. But without further ado, let me introduce you to the topics of the day. And George will be joining me in a moment. He's actually coming off a TV interview, so I'm sure he'll give us an update on how that went. If you guys didn't catch it live, he's just getting off of, I think it's Fox 5 DC right now. So he's hopping from an interview into a live stream. So he's a hard worker. But today we're going to be discussing, firstly, FedEx, which has earnings tomorrow, which I wouldn't have known about, to be honest. But I was scrolling through the Prospero homepage and I noticed that FedEx was popped up on it. So I think that's one real good example of how the Prospero homepage can help you discover stocks that might not be on your radar, that might be interesting. So we're going to be keeping our eye on it, and I'm going to be posing that to George, how FedEx looks after it was recommended in the Prospero signals. And then obviously we have to cover NVIDIA. While we were gone, it became the biggest company in the world for a brief moment, I will say. But it's just crazy to see the growth that the company has had. And we'll discuss, if there's more growth to come. I believe in 2023, it seems like long ago now, we were discussing if NVIDIA could become the world's largest company. And I think George said he thought they could. I forget the time frame we put on it. It might have been by 2025. And at that point, I thought there was no way, but it's crazy how far we've come in such a short amount of time and where we are. So we'll discuss all things NVIDIA. And I have a special stat about employees who joined the company 5 years ago. So you have to stick around and wait for me to give you that. Then we're going to stay on the AI topic, a bit more somber note going on in the next story. It's a bunch of major record labels have sued two AI companies accusing them of using copyright to train their models. And I don't know if we're going to start seeing a lot more of this or if these lawsuits are ever going to have any impact on the actual models that companies are able to use or what's the outcome of it is going to be. So we'll discuss how that relates to the market and the business world in total. I see we have a question in the chat for later. Thank you, Sassbox. Hello, George. Welcome to the stream. Coming off your interview. I mentioned that to the chat.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It was another good one. It was not quite as long. The first time I was on for 7 minutes, and this one I was more of 5. And I've heard it could be as short as 2 or 3. So I think being disappointed in 5 is probably getting a little greedy. A lot more content to cover the first time, but yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to let you talk about that for a second. I know you're just coming off of the heels of that.
Yeah. Nice to be, I think Fox 5 DC is like a 5 million person audience. So yeah, good to make a good impression, to be invited back so soon. I think it was only like a month or 2 ago that I got on.
That's great. Yeah. So I'll keep running through the topics for our viewers right now, and then we'll spin and start discussing them. And I think George also wants to talk about a personal growth mindset learning experience he had of the week we were away. So I think that would be really helpful to a lot of you guys because it's from personal experience. So I think it could be really helpful. And we will get to your question in a moment, Saucepot. So we have 3 more topics that we are going to cover today that I haven't gotten to yet. And at the end of the stream, we are going to be doing the model portfolio update. But I wanted to also get an update on crypto because we have Bitcoin dropping and a lot of other cryptos. If you're a regular viewer, you probably know the discussion we usually have about crypto, but who knows? Maybe there'll be some update, some change in mindset. And if you're not a regular viewer, you get to see how we feel about the crypto ecosystem as a whole today. And then We have the Fed annual stress test to be released after the market, I believe 4:30 to be exact, on Wednesday. This is when they do a deep dive into the banks and test out how well they would survive if there was an economic downturn or any kind of really bad scenario, recession scenario to play out. And they do it every year, and it's going to be releasing this week. So we'll discuss what that means for the market, if it's very important, if you should be watching it. We'll get into all of that. And then, last but not least, we'll be discussing if there will be any company to reach the milestone of $10 trillion in market cap by 2029. But George, it's good to see you. I missed you last week. We're back
Oh, thank
together.
you. I miss you too. It was it was nice. I'd say there's a great team at Prospero now. I have been really unable to take a vacation for a long time, and I still had to write some of my newsletters. So it wasn't a vacation, a total unplugged vacation. But for me, just writing a few newsletters is is quite a good vacation. So yeah, I was able to get away a little bit. Happy to be back. But yeah, I think the lesson you're alluding to is what was nice. I was having like a few of my better weeks this year when I was on vacation, and then I had a lot of meetings with potential investors in London the week before. So I was pretty busy then. We limited our streams because I just didn't have much time. Um, but yeah, what I would definitely say there is that there's a few lessons. One, I was, kind of saying like, oh, it's very nice that I'm doing so well, and it's actually letting me have a vacation. That was nice. But then I get back, and today is one of the worst days I've had in a bit. And there's a good lesson in that. Someone can look at that and say, oh, bad luck, but I never look at it that way. I always advise, I think the more you're in the market, the more you're looking at the data, the better off you are, the better position you're going to be in to um, essentially get a feel for market direction, which is, as I'm telling you, as I've said on the stream, is one of the more important things. Beyond just stock picking, knowing companies, value investing, even understanding trends, technicals, all those are important things. But none of them are going to serve you as well as having a good feel for market direction. And I think having a feel for market direction is obviously looking at a lot of like high level news, understanding the macro situation. But more than that, I think it's just being in the data every day. Because not only is it for me, not only is it looking at the data, looking at things like QQQ, SPY options, sentiment a lot more often than I was looking at it when I was off. But it's lots of little conversations. I'm on Spaces. I'm talking to friends that are on Wall Street. I'm just having like a lot more contact and immersion in the market that gives a better feel. Now, the only other part of the lesson is that I'm sure people have heard me say at times, I don't understand what's going on in the market today, and I'm very honest. And when I say I don't understand, but there's times that I'm looking at all the data, immersed in it, and don't understand. And then there's times when I can honestly say, you know what? I think I need to get into the data more before I can even answer that. And right now, you're rarely going to hear me say that second one because normally I'm fairly immersed in the data in an unavoidable way. But today you'll hear me say that. And I'm getting more acclimated. I'm diving in head first. I'm looking at a lot of stuff. But I do also think this could just be one of those days that's confusing.
Yes, I do want to tell you that I believe your camera is being pretty choppy. I don't know if we can uh, pull any levers to try and straighten it out, or if the chat can comment right now. Are you seeing that as well? I'm seeing it in StreamYard. So I'll pose the next question to you, see if our chat responds. I think we should just address the one in our chat right now before we get into our topics. Question for later. What do you think will be the most likely outcomes of the petrodollar agreement dissolution?
Um, you know, in terms, I hope that just didn't happen on my Fox thing. Um, yeah, I don't know what's going on with the Wi-Fi. I just ran an internet speed test before this. and it was fine. So I'm getting some very, very good speeds. I don't know what's going on. All right, we're just gonna proceed. Can you hear me now, Stephen? Is it fine?
Your voice is crystal clear. It's just the visual that's being choppy.
All right, let me see. Let me see if I can rejoin or do anything.
Okay, no problem. First day back, folks. Got to get back into the swing of things. I am excited to hear the answer for the question we got in the chat because I'm not sure uh, what it will be. So I'm very curious about it. Thanks for commenting, Joseph. And come on, Shaw. Good to see you. I think that's the first time comment. So happy to see you in the chat. But we'll get the stream. Camera still on vacation. Yeah, definitely. We'll get it figured out. And George will be right back. What did you guys do last week without our stream? Did you miss us? Did you come to YouTube and think we would be live? I think we just sent out in the Prospero newsletters that we were going to be off last week, but back and better than ever. Maybe we should do, while George is gone, a check-in on net option sentiment for QQQ and SPY. One of our favorite things to look at to see how the market's footing is. So we see the QQQ today at 52. It's been declining for a few days now. It peaked at 60, but 52 is still a relatively bullish level. So that's good to see there. And the SPY is at 48, slightly below the QQQ, but the trend is pretty different. It's been holding steadier at higher levels more recently. It peaked at 50, but it's been bouncing around the higher levels ever since then. So that's interesting to see a difference in trend between the two. Usually, I think they're usually not the same level, but they usually trade with a similar pattern. So interesting to see a difference there. Follow Prospero signals like a champ. Thanks, Joseph. Good, glad to see you're checking out the app while we're gone. Let's see how this is looking
Are
now.
we doing better?
Oh, it's perfect now. Perfect.
I'm not getting the same error message. Um, I think sometimes it's something with my I've got like a firewall or something on my virus scan. Anyway, let's just jump back into it. I think we were at the questions. I think I pretty much got done with the intro. Hopefully people heard enough of the lesson that it was helpful.
Yeah, definitely. We could hear you good. It was just the camera, so we should cover this question because I'm very curious on how you'll answer this. Want me to ask it again?
Yeah,
What do
yeah,
you think?
sorry.
Yeah, no problem. What do you think will be the most likely outcomes of the petrodollar agreement dissolution?
Oh yeah. I mean, on these like macro things, I just don't. I'm more of a stock person. Like in terms of like macro policies like this and how they'll affect individual stocks or whatever, like I look to the QQQ, SPY, things like that, where people are making their bets. That's what I look to, like based on market concern, because or like how it would affect individual energy stocks, things like that. That's how I approach those things. Like I think you get into a lot of trouble pontificating on like what a major, a major agreement, event, anything like that is going to do to the stock market. I think some people talk out of their asses about it and they don't really know. I'd rather look at the data around it um, to get my opinions. Things like there's a difference between something like that and like interest rates, which are much more straight lines, and there's so much data on what happens with that, and you know the result on say tech stocks, that it's easier to talk on that because you're talking about like smaller, when we talk about modeling and value investing predictions based on predictions. When you're talking about an agreement like that, um, not only are you talking about like a lot more complexity that makes it harder to predict, you're also talking about like a major player like OPEC that we don't really have any good way to forecast, or there's good ways to kind of like forecast what they're doing, but that would require like inside information or inside knowledge or some contacts there. So that's why I don't really get in the prediction game on that type of thing. But if you are concerned, I mean, QQQ and SPY net option sentiment are showing a little more softness today. If you are concerned, I would continue to watch those numbers because that's what I do on events where I don't believe I have good data on. I look and lean on SPY, QQQ net option sentiment more.
So speaking of the signals, I was scrolling through the Prospero app today, as I normally do when the market's open, as our chat probably does, and I saw a stock that I didn't think would be on the short-term signals pop up, FedEx, and it had some good signals. So I think this is an important lesson where like the Prospero app can introduce you to stocks that you wouldn't normally see or find. So that's why scrolling those lists are good. But then I did a little research because I was like, why is FedEx on there? And they have earnings tomorrow. So I wanted to just bring that stock up, uh, show it as an example for our viewers of how you can find new stocks just scrolling in the Prospero app. Then also talk about FedEx a bit and maybe cover what the Prospero app is seeing ahead of the earnings.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that it's very interesting when you see the kind of net option sentiment trend on something like, FedEx, when that's not something that would normally be interesting to me, right? And I look at that in two ways. I look at that and I say, well, why is it not normally interesting to me? Well, it's not normally interesting to me. When I looked at it today, it had 46 upside and 40 downside. And that's generally why things aren't interesting to me. They don't come up in the high level screeners that lean on both short term and long term signaling. So that's the first thing I would say. The second thing is like, even when things that are interesting to me, we see those kind of run ups going into earnings, I still don't think that you can be all that conclusive there. And I'll tell you why. Most of the time, earnings are, you know, after the market's closed or before the market's open, right? So you're talking about, and we actually got a question about earlier today, does net option sentiment open, like run pre and post market? And it doesn't, because net option sentiment, upside, downside, they're all heavily reliant on the options markets, correct? And so, like, if those run 9:30 to 4, that's when you're going to get data. That's when we get new data. That's when those things are going to update. So my point being there, even if you see something running up into earnings, you're not necessarily getting, you're just getting a bet. And even a logical bet on something like that, and we talk about this all the time, even if a company beats earnings, and let's say some of those bets are happening because a company is going to beat earnings, like knowing how a company is going to guide is a whole other level. And even if they're going to, they're going to beat earnings or whatever, knowing how a company is going to guide is a whole other thing. So that's why, what I'd like to say about something like that is a run up on net option sentiment or a run down shouldn't change your existing opinion too much. And I say existing opinion because it could really vary, right? If you have a detailed analysis on, say, if FedEx is going to beat earnings, and or like, let's do it the other way, not beat earnings, and option sentiment is running up, that might give you pause, but I don't think that should change your mind on it, just because there's a lot of money that goes into options into earnings. And, a lot of the times that money isn't right. A lot of times it is wrong. Like, obviously there's examples like Nvidia has been at 100 net option sentiment for a while, including, and that was a while into their last, earnings run up, which went very well. And, we played it a little bit before we backed off. But that all being said, I think that FedEx isn't really solid enough in the rest of the signals for me to get excited about it. But if you like the company and you see that net options run up, by all means, you should bet it. If you were expecting good earnings and you see that run up and it validates your existing viewpoint, by all means. it's not enough for me to get excited about, just given that upside to downside ratio.
So you brought up Nvidia, and that's exactly where I want to go because while we were gone, they became the biggest company in the world for a brief moment. They're still right there, but not quite there this week right now. I have a crazy stat about employees that joined Nvidia 5 years ago are now millionaires from the stock run up, the growth that the company has had. We covered it in 2023, and I think I posed it to you, and I had absolutely like no expectation of it happening. Where could Nvidia become the biggest company in the world like by the 2025? And I think you said yes. And it's just crazy to see it actually come to fruition. Are you at all surprised still by how much the company has grown and just how well the stock has done?
No, not really. Oh, am I choppy again? I'm getting that bad internet warning.
Yeah, yeah, the camera just got choppy.
Bad internet warning. I don't know. I'm gonna have to investigate this more. It's so weird because the speed test is running super well. Oh no, here we go. A low speed test. Um,
It worked when you did whatever you did and rejoined before.
let
If you want to do that again.
I mean, it should be good now. The speed test is back up.
All right, so before you guys get George's answer, I see we've had 700 people in the stream. I might as well ask you guys to like it up if you're liking the content so far. But we have it back.
I'm back.
Camera's not
Yeah,
quite there still.
not quite there still. Yeah, it's slow. Um, I don't know what's going on with this. It's definitely, I just caught it in a low speed. So
You gotta text everybody in your building to stop using the Wi-Fi.
hold on. I mean, the speed test is running really fast. So it's got to be something else. Um, let me see. Yeah, fast download, fast upload. I wonder if a different browser would do it. I don't. This is very disappointing. Um, let me check a few things. I mean, we'll just do what we'll. I turned off. I had a VPN and like all of these stupid like live virus scan protections, but maybe if I just close the whole thing. Let's just see. We're just quitting the whole thing. And
And it's just you and me, chat. While George is messing with the camera, let me see in the comments if you are surprised by NVIDIA's growth that we've seen before you get George's answer.
oh,
Looks clear now.
we just closed my whole. Yeah,
Nope, nope.
memory. Oh no, I got the warning again. All right, let's just keep going. If we get it, am I having issues?
Uh, I don't know. We'll see. Let's just see when you talk
Okay,
if it starts. It's actually looking better now, but we'll try to push through it.
okay.
Let's just discuss Nvidia. Has any of this surprised you? The growth we've seen, the stock performance.
No, I mean, when I think I said it when you asked me if they could be the most valuable company, I said yes, like pretty quickly. I mean, we've been betting on AI. This like, long term, my company's a bet on AI. Like I worked in AI. I've been worked in AI for 13 years. We've been picking a lot of stocks this year that have been a bet on AI and it continuing to grow. So no, I don't think it's surprising. And I think it's smart to continue to bet on AI until further notice. Like I think I see a lot of people who have come out and just being like, "Oh yeah, I told you so." Nvidia, like just because Nvidia's gone down a little bit, that it means that they're smart and that it was overvalued. Um, but yeah, I think that basically it is an amazing company that continues to grow at absolutely insane rates. I mean, we always love the stat, and we always say, "Hey, it's posted the three most impressive quarters that I've ever seen." And what we always do for context, it has 3 quarters where it's grown year over year more than 200% the last 3 quarters, and each one has kind of been even better. And for comparison, Amazon, in the last 15 years, their best quarter was a 59% year over year growth. And that was like the best growth story of our time before that. So, yeah, I think that we're definitely talking about the NVIDIA thing not being over. I definitely think, like, if you're talking about $10 trillion company. I think it's Nvidia, or the only other thing that you have to mention with this OpenAI thing is Microsoft. I think those are the two. I think those are the two companies that are going to be a race to 10 trillion. And I'd put Nvidia at the slight edge right now. The way they're growing is insane.
So no Tesla, Google, Apple, Meta. Could you just give maybe brief on each of those companies, why you wouldn't see one of them doing it first before the other ones?
In that order, I would put Meta after that because I think they're doing really interesting stuff in open source, and that could start to pay off for them in a big way. And they've got their really good core business that continues to grow. Um, then I would put Tesla after that, and Tesla I think is that could be the one that proves me wrong the quickest if this bet on full self driving and the China expansion happens. It's too volatile. Like it's kind of like the opposite of what I'm saying in Meta. Meta's like kind of making like a lot of smart decisions and playing it safe, but also growing well as a company and doing good R&D. Um, Tesla is just taking a lot of risks, and those risks could pay off. And I could be sitting here saying like, "Oh yeah, like we could have seen that coming." So they could absolutely be the ones to get there. I just think it's too risky. I think the thing with Tesla and why like I could also see them being a company whose market cap is cut in half if it doesn't work out. And I wouldn't even say that about Apple. And I would certainly not say that about the other three ones you mentioned. But Apple, has kind of become a bit boring. They'd have to like invent something new to be in that conversation. And I'm not sure that, they're a great company to bet on inventing something new. I mean, even their big AI play is powered by ChatGPT. So that's like them basically throwing in the towel on being inventors. Then you also have the other issue of essentially uh they're not even doing a second generation VR headset, right? And that was supposed to be their big thing. I just saw that announcement today. So it's just like they're just not innovating very well.
So last thing on this topic, I think you could tell me if I'm wrong, but it was easy to bet on Nvidia, when it was way smaller and it was the best AI play, like way smaller than the Magnificent Seven stocks, or it was in it, but still way smaller. Now that it's basically caught up to them and it's the biggest company, or right there with them, it would seem to me that it becomes harder to um, the bet just becomes less, asymmetric that Nvidia will outperform the other big AI tech stocks like Microsoft, Google, and so on. Would you agree that it's becoming now more difficult to be sure that Nvidia will outperform them, or you don't think that, and you think that it has way more growth than them still.
Um, I think reasonable minds can disagree on if Nvidia is currently overvalued based on like how much growth. I think I read today that um it still has an eighth. I think it was either the profitability or sales of Apple and Microsoft, and its bigger market cap, something like that. Um, so there's a tremendous amount of growth that's built into it. But you know, it's hard to say. It's hard to say if it's overvalued, but I wouldn't bet it like, and I hammer on this all the time. The rate that they're growing, people always pay for growth on Wall Street, especially in a bull market. So, do I want to bet against them continuing to grow? And if they continue to grow at this insane pace, they're going to outperform those other companies. Yeah, like I wouldn't bet against it, but the real tough thing is, what if they don't keep the insane growth pace and they start slowing down a little bit? How does slowing down a little bit um get priced in? Because they'll still be growing, like, even if they cut their growth in half, they'll still be growing, 8 times faster than the next best Mag 7 company. Um so so yeah, that's an insane amount of growth, and that's why they're getting, priced so high. And it's one of those things that I don't think you can bet against. I'd rather bet for or against it, but I like companies like SMCI or Broadcom, more right now, just because they have a lot more room to go up without having to maintain an absolutely insane growth path.
And I know we're getting to the end of our topics time, so we have two more. So let's try to push through these. We have crypto dropping. Bitcoin is down about 20% from its recent peak a few months ago. There's any new people in here? They haven't heard you talk about crypto before. If we have our regulars, they probably know what you're about to say. But do you have any update on the crypto? Is it interesting to you? Is it a buy the dip time? How are you feeling about crypto at this moment?
Well, I mean, I say this, at least people know that I say this, whether it's going up, whether it's going down. Um, but let's talk about the idea of buy the dip. I think the idea of buy the dip, and for those that don't know, I don't think I've ever done this on a stream, but I think it's a value investing thing. I think it was Ben Graham who introduced the concept of Mr. Market. And Mr. Market is someone that offers you the price of something every day. And they'll say, I want this, I think your chair. I want to buy it for $300 today. And, I think the chair is worth $100, right? That's what I paid for the chair. Maybe it's worth $90 now, right? That's the difference between price and value, right? And Mr. Market could come today, like later, and but I would say that, sorry to go on that example, offers me $300. I think it's worth. I paid $100 for it, but I actually think it's worth, $400 now. So I wouldn't want to transact. But Mr. Market can come the next day and say that it's worth $50. And what some people do when they hear Mr. Market come and they hear something like that, and they're like, oh, well, it was $400, last year, and now it's $50. That chair might be worth less. But the reality is the chair is worth what the chair is worth. Now, let's relate all this, and I have to know what I think the chair is worth. And I think, to me, I gave the example where it's like the chair is worth at least what I paid for the chair. So what does that mean in actuality? That means that the value of a company, like something like Nvidia, right? At least you can say they're doing this much business, this much sales, this much profit, right? A coin doesn't have that. So the idea of buy the dip what dip? What's the proper value of Bitcoin? It doesn't have one. So I don't like the concept of buying a dip from what value? Like you can only really know if something is a dip or at a discount if you have some good conception of what the proper value of it is. And the biggest problem with Bitcoin, what I always say is, even though I do think it's it's a good investment long term, it's always a question of timing and opportunity cost when you talk about that. The timing, the opportunity cost, all of that essentially boils down to the same thing. It boils down to understanding where, at least how I approach it, institutions are making their options bets. That's what gives me an understanding of if something is something that I want to own right now because I see a tremendous opportunity in both the short and long term, or if it's something that I can see develop more before I want to own it. And the problem with Bitcoin is that, and any cryptocurrency, is it has non-transparent options markets. So you can't get a good feel of the opportunity cost because you actually don't know if there are way more levered options, whatever bets against it than there are for it in the short term, long term, whatever. And without visibility into that, you can't even really make a good decision on if the momentum is there, let alone if the value is there, if there's a dip, because there is no value. The value is only Mr. Market in the case of Bitcoin, because it only has the market. It doesn't have some underlying value doing business.
I think that's a good lesson. And yeah, I haven't heard you say that before. So that's interesting. Your camera did go out during it. So I think we should just do our switch over. And then maybe on the other side, as you're setting up, you could talk about the Fed stress test and what it means. You want to do that?
Yeah. Well, I think I just have to do. We can push that. When is this? I mean, I'll do it quickly. I got to do my portfolio update.
Yeah, I thought you could just talk about it.
But we
while
can
you're
do it
setting
quickly
up.
on the other end.
Yeah.
I'll be there.
All right. See you on the other side. It's tough to talk back and forth when there's a lag like that. Thank you everybody. If you were here from the beginning till now, I hope you enjoyed the show. It was a bit bumpy today, but we'll hit our stride. We are going to be back live at our normal time Wednesday at 3 p.m. So same time as today to do another live stream. We'll cover everything that's going on in the market again, and we will do a model portfolio update. We are back in the swing of things. Let me get you guys an updated look at the SPY and the QQQ net option sentiment. We have a big difference in the market's performance today. So the SPY is essentially flat, but the QQQ is down 0.75%. So a little bit of a difference going on there. Let's see if anything changed since we got our update on the signals. Not for the QQQ, it is still at 52, while the SPY is at 48. So I think that's the same as before, if I'm not mistaken. I hope you guys enjoyed the topics that we covered so far. If you haven't seen what we're about to do, and this is one of your first streams, what George is going to do is he's going to show you live how he updates the model portfolio, what he looks for, what changes he's making, all while the market's open, all transparent on screen. So you'll get a good show of that, and you'll see it. I believe it's a paid product, but you'll see it for free live on stream. So that's another bonus of tuning into the streams every week. But yes, that is it. I didn't see any updates from our chat on the Croatia-Italy game, so I hope it's still 0-0. Oops.
All right, got the wired connection here now. I've just decided after this I'm ordering wired connections. I'm going to order a longer thing, so I'm on a wired connection on my other setup too.
Yeah, it's weird. It seemed like it was on like a timer or something, because it'd be crystal clear, perfect for like 15 minutes or whatever the time was, and then it would go out again. So I'm not sure what's going on there.
I think inconsistent wireless, but whatever. All right. stress tests.
Yeah.
So,
So yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I didn't know if you were setting me up. It's gonna come out 4:30 p.m. on Wednesday. The Fed looks at a bunch of different banks and their balance sheets. But yeah, if you want to talk about what it means for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of an interesting personal experience from this, working at um, Bear Stearns in the summer of '06, but also being around this world. And what I would say is stress tests suck because they only know how to test for like they only know how to test for what's happened before, and B, they tend to have people that are uh, figuring out how to build loopholes for them, even if it's like mortgages again. They'll figure out some other new way to hide the collateral, even if it's something that they've seen before. um, so I think they're pretty meaningless as a result of that. I don't take them too seriously. And we'll see, like, even with the um, First Republic, I don't think there was any news about like any like stress test breaking it. It was basically rich people like finding out from investment banks, like we say, counterparty risk. That's the better stress test. Banks that test each other for counterparty risk, that know how to price the assets better, mark them to market. That's a big thing, like, because banks are much better at figuring out the real market price of assets. And that's the other problem with the stress test, irrespective of the fact that like banks are always ahead of governments, hedge funds, whatever, in terms of how to get around regulations if they want to. So I would say that basically it's pretty meaningless, and we see time and time again they're not out in front of anything. So why should we really even care about them?
So it's all for show. It sounds like.
Yes, it definitely is all for show.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're switching over, right?
Yep. Let's do it.
Let's look at first. Like I said, I just need to get into the data more. So I'm going to do that with you guys. We're definitely seeing this trend get bigger. We see it there. We're seeing tech go down. I mean, it's pretty much tech bad, energy good is what we're seeing. And we may move stuff around in that, but we'll look to be targeted. You want to tell me the current QQQ and SPY net option sentiment readings?
Yep. I feel like we were in a time briefly earlier this year where energy was better than tech. Also, QQQ is at 52 and SPY is at 47.
I guess we're not narrating. Are we trying that?
My bad. For the chat.
No, we hadn't talked about that in a while. I was just making a joke. We're out of our group.
Yeah. It looks like we better exit some tech for risk control, is what the thought is right now, based on the signals we're seeing. Other than large cap growth. Continuing to trend away from its bull run, the clearer move is towards value. We'll cover that by adding more shorts and away from growth, as targeting value specifically can be hard.
Yeah, I had something else, but all right. Model portfolio. SMCI. We held a lot of healthcare, which is probably what's sparing us today. All right.
You know, what you're saying is exactly what we're seeing in the market today, with the Dow Jones up 0.75% and the QQQ down 0.75%.
Mm-hmm. Oh, damn. Hims had a bad end to last week. Oh, I thought I had more FANG. We're going to have to add at least one FANG. Let's get that out of the way right now. I thought I had more. Oh, well. I don't think we want 2 ASML. That's for damn sure. Oh, we're definitely getting at it. Wait, is that? Yeah, okay. No more corn nuts. All right, anything else? My crown is looking okay. We might pare down more. What is ASPN? Whatever it is, it does not look good. Looks like we got into that one at a bad time, but cut our losses. All right, anything else? Let's just check on how many of these we have too. 82 longs. That can't be right.
Saucepot's asking how they get access to the model portfolio.
If you get the trading letter, and you can email me if you want a discount. I always give discounts. It's part of the trading letter. 60. Let's make sure we have an accurate count here. 81, yeah, that's what I thought. All right, we got to even that out more. So we won't cut any shorts, but we won't add any longs either.
Shaw just commented, seeing news reports of hacker group Lockbit breaching the Fed. Maybe we'll get the report early, I guess.
Damn. How's the market looking on that news?
It's not really much changed.
Yeah.
QQQ's down a little bit more.
Doesn't seem to care that much about it. All right, let's grab some new shorts. Not Baxter and Drag. So is the pharma. ConMed. Okay, I like CNMG as a short. Lamb, what's in food? That looks pretty good. Yeah. Getting some good shorts. Stay Lauder. Is this Urban Outfitters? I thought it was, yeah. What's going on with Urban Outfitters? Something maybe. Not enough. Telefax. I think I looked at AV&T last week. The close one. It's TA. Zinta. Oh, that looks really good. Oh, it's doing this annoying thing that it does sometimes. I think that's what it was, right? AZTA. Damn it. See, sometimes it does this very annoying thing. Uh-oh. Damn. Well, I'm screwed if it's doing this. I don't want all of this. Oh. Okay, great. Oh, I figured out how to fix that. I was figuring it out for a while. Great, that's what I wanted. All right. ICFI. All right, I think that's enough. We did so many that we're just going to look at the logs and see if anything looks interesting. Oh. How about MCK? Yeah, that looks good. How about NXP? I hadn't heard of that. No, definitely not. No more semiconductors right now. We're all filled up on semiconductors. Not Expedia. Not that. But maybe Jack, I think. EPAM. All right. That's the last one we're looking at. No. Oh, LPLA. Yeah, I'm interested in that. We want to diversify. Great. And that about takes us to time. All right. We are doing that. Getting ready to push it at 4.
We have another question in our chat asking, is there a way to create option sentiment in TradingView with Prospero?
Option sentiment in TradingView. No, because that kind of breaks our number one rule of not letting our metrics get out in an API or anything like that, because we'd be worried. We'd be worried about people stripping our data, hedge funds or whatever, and then it not working as well for you all. So there's really no good way that we figured out to let it out without that risk.
I believe I heard you say you don't want to trade the alpha into the market.
Yes, that is what we say sometimes.
All right, so it looks like our stream's over. We'll be back regular time, 3 p.m. Wednesday. Um, Seems by some of the moves you made, George, it seems like we might have a little bit of a growth scare coming up in the market,
Yeah,
no?
definitely. I'm considering if I'm going to adjust my investing letter. Just wait till tomorrow. I'll probably wait till tomorrow though.
All right, we'll wait and see. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.